You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Imagine waking up in the dead of the Antarctic winter, feeling a wave of nausea, shivering with fever, and then bomb a sharp pain knifing through your lower right abdomen. You're not just a patient, you're the only doctor for thousands of miles. Now, you might be thinking, can't you just call for help? But in 1961, communications were slow, and evacuation? Out of the question. Antarctica's isolation, or logistical remoteness, is like being stranded on another planet. As Dr. Leonid Rogozov soon realized, survival in such an extreme environment meant solving problems most of us never dream of. Let me set the stage. The Cold War wasn't just about nukes and satellites, it was about prestige who could go further, dig deeper, survive longer. Antarctica became a chessboard for geopolitical posturing. Both the US and the Soviet Union scrambled to stake scientific claims. Think of it as a massive frozen game of capture the flag with research bases instead of forts. Why? Not because they needed penguins, but because whoever controlled the ice could, in theory, control the world's last untouched continent. It was about denying the other side a foothold, militarily and scientifically. So, how did the world avoid turning Antarctica into a militarized zone? In 1959, 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty, a landmark agreement that transformed the continent into a neutral scientific reserve. That's diplomatic language for no one owns it, everyone can study it, but no tanks allowed. This was a rare moment of cooperation. The treaty banned military activity and put Antarctica under United Nations oversight, a bit like declaring it Earth's laboratory. But, as you'll see, that didn't stop the Soviets from sending their best and brightest, including Dr. Rogozov, to the ice. Who was this man about to face the unthinkable? Dr. Leonid Rogozov, just 27, had recently graduated from St. Petersburg State Pediatric Medical University. He was barely a year into his career as a general practitioner, starting clinical training to become a surgeon. But when the call went out for a doctor to join the Soviet Antarctic expedition, he volunteered. Think about it. Would you leave your budding career for a year in endless cold? Rogozov saw it as both a duty and an adventure, chance to serve his country and test his skills on the ultimate frontier. Now, let's talk medicine. Appendicitis is an acute inflammatory process that's doctor speak for a ticking time bomb in your gut. First comes malaise and nausea, then fever and chills. But the clincher? That stabbing pain in the lower right abdomen. Rogozov knew the textbook signs. He even performed a rebound test jumping in place to see if the pain exploded. It did. Here's the kicker. Untreated appendicitis can burst, spilling bacteria into the abdominal cavitae, disaster called peritonitis. In Antarctica, that meant almost certain death. You're the only doctor. No rescue is coming. What do? Rogozov faced what's called an auto-appendectomy surgery on himself. He wrote in his journal, "A snowstorm whipping through my soul." Now you might ask, why not just wait and hope for the best? But here's the brutal truth. Appendicitis rarely resolves itself. Even if the blockage clears, infection can follow. The risk of septic Shaka body-wide infection is simply too high. Rogozov's choice was stark. Operate and maybe live, or wait and almost certainly die. With no other options, Rogozov selected 2 assistants from his timon, a driver, the other, a meteorologist. He gave them crash courses in aseptic technique, the science of keeping things sterile, contingency plans for every scenario. Think about it. These weren't med students. They were regular guys suddenly thrust into a high-stakes operation. He even wrote out instructions, how to inject adrenaline if he fainted, how to perform artificial ventilation. It's like turning your coworkers into an emergency medical team overnight. April 29th, 1961. The operating room was scrubbed spotless as surgical asepsis, as we say. Rogozov donned his gloves, injected local anesthetic, and made a 10-centimeter incision. But even surgeons make mistakes. He accidentally nicked his large intestine, a serosol tear causing heavy bleeding. Now, imagine trying to stitch yourself up, hands trembling, blood obscuring your view. When the mirror was useless, he had to rely on tactile feedback, feeling his way inside his own abdomen. The pain became unbearable, but he refused more anesthetic, fearing it would cloud his mind. 40 minutes in, on the brink of passing out, Rogozov finally found the culprit. The appendix was swollen, dark at its base, a sign of impending perforation. He described his hands as rubber, his heart pounding. Now, you might wonder, how do you cut out an organ while half conscious? With sheer willpower. Using a scalpel, Rogozov excised the appendix, cleaned the area, and dosed himself with antibiotics. The whole ordeal lasted over 2 hours. It was triumph over agony textbook resilience and medical improvisation under duress. Surviving surgery is just the start. Post-op, there's always the specter of nosocomial infection hospital-acquired bugs. But thanks to meticulous technique, Rogozov recovered quickly. 5 days later, his fever broke. 2 days after that, the stitches came out. 2 weeks post-surgery, he was back at work. His courageous act made headlines, prompting stricter health screenings for Antarctic expeditions. Today, many nations require prophylactic appendectomy, removing the appendix before deployment. Rogozov's ordeal didn't just save his life, it changed policy, ensuring no one else would have to face the scalpel alone at the bottom of the world. You might be surprised to learn Rogozov's story echoes into space. Some researchers argue astronauts headed for Mars should have their appendixes removed before launch, just in case. After all, telemedicine can only do so much when you're millions of miles from Earth. Rogozov's self-surgery stands as a case study in human grit and the importance of preparation in extreme environments. So, next time you hear about a daring rescue or a medical breakthrough, remember the lone doctor who braved the Antarctic darkness, scalpel in hand, and changed the world with his courage.